Let's take up problem 5-1. The products company produces a latex paint and uses the process cost system. Materials, labor, and overhead rate are added evenly throughout the process. The following information was obtained from the company's accounts at the end of February. We have the production cost incurred during the month, including materials, labor, and factory overhead. Now, from the production report, we have finished and transferred to stockroom during the month 60,000 units, and at the end of the period, you still have work in process one-fourth completed for 10,000 units. Requirement is prepare a cost of production summary for February. Now we have the cost of production summary, cost of production for the month, including materials, labor, and factory overhead. So we have now the total cost to be accounted for 90,000 pesos. Unit output for the month, finished and transferred to finished goods during the month is 60,000 units, and we have the work in process at the end of the month, 10,000 units, one-fourth completed. So we have 2,500 units. The total equivalent production is 62,500 units. Then the unit cost for the month is taken by dividing each manufacturing cost element. So materials 30,000 divided by the equivalent production of 62,500 equals 0.48. Labor is 0.32 and factory overhead 0.64. So the cost per unit is 1.44. Now for the inventory cost, the cost of goods finished and transferred to finished goods, we have we have now 60,000 units completed during the month. We multiply it by the unit cost of 1.44. It's $400. Then we have the cost of the work in process. At the end, we have 10,000 units. However, the work done is only one-fourth. So meaning the equivalent production of the work in process at the end is 2,500 units times 0.48. Then for labor, it's times 0.32, and factory overhead is times 2,500 times 0.64. So all in all, we have the cost of the work in process and of 3,600. So we have now the total production cost accounted for is 90,000. That's the total cost accounted for, which should equal the total cost to be accounted for. So in other words, once you have the two amounts equal, you have two double rule, total cost to be accounted for, and you have your total production cost accounted for. Now for problem 1. Then we go to problem 5-2. Brewing company uses the process cost system. The following data taken from the books reflect the results of manufacturing operations during October. So we have now the work in process beginning. The cost is 5,900. Then we have the cost incurred during the month for 23,500. We add this to the work beginning of 5,900. So the total cost is 29,400. Production data 13,000 units finished and transferred to the stock room. So we have now 13,000 units. Then at the end of the period, you have work in process, end of 2000, one half completed. Now prepare cost of production summary. Now for the cost of the work in process, at the beginning of the month, we have the total cost of 5,900, and then the production cost for the month total 23,500. So you end up with 29,400. That's the total cost to be accounted for. Then we have the unit output for the months. So we have the unit output finished and transferred to finished goods during the month is 13,000 units. So as given, 13,000 units were finished and transferred to the stock room. Then we are going to add the equivalent production of the work in process at the end. So we have now 2,000 units, but only one half completed. So we multiply 2,000 units times one half. So that gives us 1,000, the total equivalent production of 14,000 units. So for the unit cost for the month, we are dividing material cost by here we have 2,600, the material cost of the beginning inventory. Then we have the material cost of the units just transferred. So we have now the total of 12,600. So finally, computing for the unit cost for the month, materials 26 plus 10,000, we get total of 12,600, and then we divide it by 14,000. Now that's your equivalent production. Then we get the unit cost of materials, labor, and factory overhead. Now for the inventory cost, the cost of goods finished and transferred to finished goods. So we now get 13,000. We just multiply it by 2.10. So we have now the cost of goods finished and transferred to finished goods during the month. First, we have total of 13,000 units times 2.10. Okay, so we have now materials 2,000 units for the ending inventory times one half. That's the work done on the a number of units. So we just multiply it by 13,000 times 210, meaning as far as 210 is concerned, we just multiply total number of units of 13,000. That's your finished and transferred to finished goods during the month. So here for the inventory cost, the cost of goods finished and transferred, we have total of 13,000 multiplied by 2.10. Then for labor, it's 2,000 times one half times 0.70. And last is for 50 cents. So we have now the total cost of the work in process at the end of 2,100. Then we add it to the cost of the finished goods. Total units or total cost to be accounted for is now equal to the total cost accounted for. Next, we go to 5-4, which involves determination of the unit cost, no? Calculation of equivalent units in beginning inventory. Reynolds provides the following information regarding its units of production: 1,000 units in ending work in process, one-third complete on June 30. 47,000 units started in production during July, with 42,000 completed in addition to the beginning work in process by the end of July. Take note that by June 30, we have an inventory of 1,000 units, but the current month is July. In other words, the 1,000 units becomes the beginning inventory as of July. So with the 42,000 units completed plus the 1,000 units in the beginning inventory. Here, the ending inventory was two-thirds complete by the end of July. So in other words, if we have 1,000 units, add 47, we now get total of 48,000 units. And then number of units completed is 43,000. Because the 42,000, you have to add the beginning inventory. So in the units, two-thirds complete at the end of July. In other words, we have to add the beginning inventory, add the units just started, and then we deduct completed. The difference is the work in process inventory at the end. Now map the calculation of the equivalent units of production using the format in figure 5.6 of the chapter. What would be the effect on unit cost and profit if the plant controller followed the plant manager's advice to ignore the fact that the ending work in process inventory was only two-thirds complete? Why might the plant manager make such a request, and would the plant controller be violating any standards in the IMA's statement of ethical professional practice by doing so? So in here we have 5.4. 5.4. First, we have to map the calculation of the equivalent units. That's in requirement number 1. So 1,000 units in process at the end of June. But that becomes the beginning inventory as of July. 43,000 units completed by July 31, because problem stated that 42,000 units were completed in addition to the beginning work in process. So we now get 43,000 units completed by July 31. 47,000 units started in production out of 47, 42,000 units were completed. So take note, started 47,000 units started in production during July. So out of this, 42,000 units were completed in addition to the beginning work in process. So we now get the work in process of 1,000. Then we have now 5,000 units in ending inventory, two-thirds completed. So we have 1,000 units. We add 47,000. We get total of 48,000 units. And then we deduct completed of here. We have 42, no? Actually, number of units completed is 43. Why 43? Because problem stated that 42,000 units were completed in addition to the units beginning. So 1,000 units, we add 47,000 units. Completed is totally 43,000. So we add 48,000 1,000 47,000 equals 48,000. Number of units completed is 43,000. 42,000 coming from the July started units plus 1,000 coming from that of June 30. So we have now the 5,000 units in ending work in process, two-thirds completed. So we have now the equivalent units of production included in July production. And for 6,333, the equivalent units of production in July. And 1,667 equivalent units of production included in August production. So actually, you have now your equivalent production computations. So we have in requirement number 2, what would be the effect on unit cost and profit in the plant controller? Now, if the entire 5,000 units in ending work in process were counted as equivalent units, the denominator used in computing unit cost would be higher, thus making the cost per unit lower. If the manufacturing cost per unit is lower, the cost of goods manufactured would also be lower and profits would be higher. The plant manager may have made the request because a bonus system rewards managers for driving down costs and increasing profits. No, the controller should not honor the plant manager's request. By adhering to the plant manager's request, the plant controller would be in violation of the competence, integrity, credibility standards in the IMA standards of ethical professional practice. Now we go to the next problem. We have 5-5. Okay, we continue with 5-5. The problem is asking to prepare a cost production summary for shifting for the month ended May 31. Round unit cost to 3 decimal places and totals to the nearest whole number. So we have now for the first requirement, the cost production summary in 5-5. So we have now the number of units in the stock room is 10,000 units, and you have now your cost per unit applicable. So we have now the cost of goods sold received from mixing during the month computed as we have the cost of production includes material cost, labor, and factory overhead. However, for the units received from milling, you have 10,000. So in the carrying unit cost is 2 pesos and 50 centavos. Okay. So we multiply the units of 10,000 transferred in 10,000, and we multiply that by 2.50. So you get 25,000. Then we have the cost of production for the month for the shifting materials 6,000, labor and factory overhead 3,000 and 9,000 respectively. Okay, so we have now your cost of production report, 10,000 units multiplied by 2 pesos and 50 centavos for the cost of goods received from the milling during the month. Then we have the cost of production for the month in the shifting department. We have materials, labor, and overhead. Total of 18,000. It now becomes 43,000. Then you have the unit output for the month, finished and transferred for the unit cost production report. Actually given ang 18,000. So that's taken by including material cost in 5-5. The material cost in here is during the month, no? Shifting during the month included is materials of 6,000, labor 3,000, and factory overhead of 9,000. So the total cost to be accounted for is 43,000. Next, we go to the unit uh, output for the month. So, okay, unit output for the month. We now get finished and transferred to packaging during the month 6,000, and we have materials, labor, and overhead total of 18,000. So the cost coming from the milling, we get the total that's 43,000. Now for the unit output for the month, finished and transferred to packaging during the month, 9,000. Then we have here we have the unit output for the month of 8,000, finished and transferred to packaging during the month, 8,000. And we have to add the equivalent production of the 2,000 units. And we have now the total for the equivalent units of work in process. At the end of the month, 2,000 units. Stage work done is 1/4. So you multiply 2,000 units by 1/4. Total equivalent production of 8,500. Then for the unit cost for the months, shifting, we have the amount of the unit cost for materials taken by dividing 6,000, 6,000 divided by 8,500. So you now get the cost here of that's the product in dividing 6,000 by 8,500 equivalent production. Labor, again, we have 3,000 and 3,000 is given. Then we multiply that by 8,500. We get 363. Then for factory overhead equal to 9 as we have 9 pesos or $9. So we have 9 and we have to multiply here for the inventory cost in 5 we have here the inventory cost. Cost of goods finished and transferred to packaging, we have the 8,000. This one, the 8,000 units. Then you multiply that in the milling department. In the milling department, here we have 8,000 and we multiply that by 250. The cost per unit given. Then the cost in shifting 8,000 units times 2.118 so that the whole amount is equal to 4,618. That's your inventory cost. So what happens if we have the cost of 20,000 and the cost of multiplying 8,000 by 2.11. So that gives us 6944. That's the total cost to be accounted for. Then the cost of the work in process at the end of the month, 5,000. The cost in shifting materials, 2,000, but equivalent production is only one fourth. So you get 363 or 353. Then labor, 2,000 labor cost times one fourth. So you get 0.353 as the small number. You get 177 and factory overhead equal to 1.059. So you now get the amount of the inventory here with the total of 6,060. That's the total cost of the work in process at the end of the month. Now be careful because the 2,000 units at the end of the month, 2,000 now, ang iyang unit cost is 2.50 as initially given. That's why you have 5,000. Then we have the cost in shifting for materials, labor, and we have factory overhead. So now materials 2,000 by one fourth, labor by one fourth, and factory overhead still one fourth. So the total cost of the work in process at the end. Then we have the total production cost of here 43,004. Okay, so we are now done with the problem 5-5. Let's go to the next is 5-6. Forming the second department in a three-department production process for Chula Vista Can Incorporated received 15,000 units with a total cost of 45,000. So meaning 15,000 units, total cost is 45,000 from Blanking during the month of May. Production cost informing during the month where materials, labor, and factory overhead. And of the 15,000 units transferred, 12,000 units were transferred. Okay, so in number 6, prepare a cost production summary for forming for the month of May. So in problem 5-6, we are going to prepare the cost of production here in the forming department. So we have the cost of goods transferred in the production department. Cost of goods received from blanking. So that's the initial department. 15,000 here. You multiply it by 3. We are now in 5-6. So the beginning inventory is now for a total of 15,000 units times 3. Then we have now your cost in the forming department. Then the unit output for the month, 12,000 is finished and transferred to the finishing uh, during the month. 12,000 equivalent units of work in process at the end of the month, 3,000 times two-thirds. 2/3. This is the beginning inventory. So all in all, we have 12,000 equivalent units of work and 3,000 units times 2/3. So you get 2,000 and the total equivalent production. Now the unit cost for the month for me, we have the materials 90,000 divided by 4,000. Your 4,000, 14,000, and the labor 6,000 times 14,000. All in all, you get total unit cost of 1.929. I'm giving you your total cost of 1972 for the unit output for the month. Now there's another asterisk to explain the total cost to be accounted for of 72,000. So unit cost for the month, 4.643, 0.429, and 0.857. Total the inventory cost, cost of goods finished and transferred to finishing during the month. So we have now total of 59,148. We have 59,148. Then we add the cost of work in process at the end for materials, 9,000 divided by 4,300, no? So we have now the cost in blanking, 12,000 times 3, 36,000. Now that's the cost in blanking. 3 is given, so you get 36,000. Cost in forming, 12,000 times 1.92, so you get 2,000 times 4.29. And finally, we have the cost of the work in process at the end of the period. We have the cost in banking, 3,000 units divided by 3 times 3 per unit, so you get 9,000. Then the cost in forming materials, 3,000 times 2/3 times 0.643. That's for your unit cost. So 1286. Labor equals 3,000 units times 2/3. So you multiply by 0.429 factory overhead by 0.857, giving a total production cost in the table. So you have 72,006 and you got an asterisk. Okay, now we go to 5-7. 5-7, what does the problem require in 5-7? We have a cost of production summary for each department. Round unit cost to 3 decimal places and totals to the nearest whole dollar. So we have now your departmental cost worksheet analysis, cost of production. For 3 departments, there is no beginning inventory. Premier Products Incorporated has 3 departments. So we have and uses the process cost system of accounting. Apportion the inventory cost, departmental cost, worksheet prepared by the cost accountant equals here we have the amount to be used in 5-7. A portion of the departmental cost worksheet prepared by the cost accountant at the end of July is reproduced below. So you will find the cost data for the month of July. Okay, so we have the first department. We have the cutting department. You begin with started, then we have cost for the month and materials, labor, and factory overhead. Completed and transferred is 10,000, $10 per unit. So 5 plus 2.67 plus 2.32, it begins with 10 unit per unit, $10 per unit. Now in the problem in 5.7, we begin with the cost of production for the month, materials 30,000 given, and then we have your labor and factory overhead. Now you get this from the column amount charged to department. So you now get the total cost to be accounted for. Now, so what we will be having is the unit output for the month started 5,400 units, and then we have the work in process at the end 1,200 units times stage work done, one half. Okay, so we have now 600 units. Then we have the equivalent production of 6,000. The unit cost for the month, materials, labor, and factory overhead. Here we have materials, unit cost is 5. We have factory overhead, labor is 16,000 divided by 6,000, 2.6667, and factory overhead. Okay, so we have now the cost per unit and finally the cost based on this data shown in the cost summary. So for the inventory cost, we have the cost of goods finished and transferred to shipping during the month, and we have the cost of the work in process at the end. So meaning the cost of the units here is supposed to be $10 per unit. So all in all, total production cost accounted for equals 60,000. Now the same with, we have the cost per unit equal to, here we are given 60,000. Okay, so we now have $5.7 after. Then we have here the cost production summary in the shipping department showing, here we have the cost per unit during the month, and we have the breakdown of the units as they will be affected by the equivalent production. So in 5-8, journal entries and cost of goods manufactured statement required. Okay, so in 5-8, we have the entries. So work in process cutting given is 30,000. Then shipping 1,200 and finishing for another 6,300. So total is 37,500. Now with second, work in process cutting, shaping, and finishing. and we credit to payroll for this. And finally, we have your closing of cutting, shaping, and finishing. So we have now the payroll credited for 26,200 and debit to work in process, cutting, shaping, and finishing. Take note that we can credit the amount of first, number one, materials, number two, payroll, and number three, factory overhead. So we have now your next entry, debit to work in process, shaping, and credit cutting. Finally, we have your finished goods for 66,000 and credit to work in process in 5-8. Next, we have 5-9. What are the requirements of 5-9? Prepare cost production summary. When preparing the converting production summary, refer to the rolling production summary for the cost transferred in during the month. So in 5-9, we have now the rolling department, the cost of the work in process on May 1 with the given cost here for 5,000. Okay. Cost of the work in process beginning May 1 transferred from rolling. So we have materials 5,000, labor 6,450, and factory overhead 3,550, the total of 15,000. The cost of the work in process on May 1, then incurred during the month enrolling materials 37,000, labor 45,000, and factory overhead for 50,000. So the total of 132,000, including the cost of the work beginning. So we have now the total cost to be accounted for is 147,000. These are the costs to be accounted for in the rolling department. Now, the unit output for the month, finished and transferred to converting, that's the next department, given is 15,000 units. Now, you will see in the column converting, received from prior department, 15,000. That's the number of units transferred to converting, then finished and on hand for 5,000 units. Here, finished and on hand for 5,000 units and the equivalent units of the work in process on May 31, again with 5,000 units rolling na. You multiply that by the stage work done, that's only 1/5. So the equivalent production is 21,000, giving us the cost per unit taken by adding the cost of the work beginning and the production cost during the month. So you get 42,000 divided by the equivalent production. So you get $2 labor, you get the beginning labor cost and add to the cost incurred during the month. So you get 21,000. Here, divide by 21,000. Total of 42,000 divided by 21,000. The EP, so you get 2. And then the labor, 6,450, add 45,000 divided by 21,000. So you get 2.45. Factory overhead, is 3,550, add 50,000 divided by 21,000, so you get 2.55, leading to the cost per unit equal to 7. Then for the inventory cost, the cost of goods finished and transferred to converting during the month, 15,000 units times 7. You get 105,000. The cost of goods finished and on hand, 5,000 times 7, 35. And you have your cost of the work in process, May 31, taken by for materials, you multiply 5,000 times 1/5, the equivalent production, then you multiply that by 2. Labor is still the same, 5,000. Only that this time, the work done is also 1/5. So materials, labor, and factory overhead, the work done is 1/5. So individually and finally you get production cost per unit, ending with the total production cost. And we finally have problem 9 to continue. A unit output for the month. So finished and transferred to finished goods, 10,000. And we have the work in process end. So the equivalent production of 15,000 units. Unit cost for the month, cost from rolling, beginning inventory 10,000, and then units, then you have the cost of 50,000. That's the cost. And then we have transferred in during the month 15,000 units and the cost of 105,000. So we have here 105,000. And we have your transferred in this month 105, and then we get the total, we get the average unit cost 620. Then for materials, you just add here, no? For materials, the sum of 5,000 times 40, and then divide by the equivalent production of 15,000 units. So these are now your costs in the converting department. And finally, in here, you can determine the inventory cost of goods finished and transferred. So 10,000 units times 15.20, you get 152. And for the cost of work in process on May 31, cost from rolling, we have materials and labor, and finally factory overhead. Take note that you are multiplying this by the cost per unit. All right, we have the last problem here, which we are going to take up. 5-10, the journal entries. What are the journal entries? To the cost of goods received from rolling during the month. So we now debit to work in process, converting, and credit that of rolling given 105,000. Debit to work in process for converting, we again debit to material credit to materials, payroll, and factory overhead. And finished goods credit to work in process. Now for Friday, Friday, we will have one more problem. One more problem. So anyway, just come to class on Friday. Okay? Good night. Nana.